Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models and Memories Weekly, episode 34. Models and Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. And stay tuned all the way till the end to see a montage of painted minis courtesy of the EOB Complete community. This is a show where I talk on painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week, and I end every episode with a story. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 YouTube videos a week and you stream every single night. How could you possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, I had tons of fun putting together lots and lots of miniatures that you will see soon. But one miniature that I put together that was very interesting was a Finecast mini. This is the Crew Tox, one of the Crew's units for the Tau that no one takes, and it was quite the experience. I've put together a fair bit of Finecast at this point, and it's never good, but this one was reminded me of all the things that make Finecast what it is, because it is a weird thing from Games Workshop. Finecast models are Games Workshop's resin miniatures, and usually resin means quality. Like, resin can be just a tiny bit sharper than plastic. I mean, some of Games Workshop's plastics are really good, particularly Chaos models, where the spikes are actually dangerously sharp. But Games Workshop's resin is pretty shockingly bad. I remember in 2015, they really were swapping all of their metal stuff into resin, and I suspect that they're still using the same spin casting methods, if not the same spin casting molds, because these models just have flaws that more modern resin models don't. They have sometimes bad mold slippage, they have really bad seam lines, sometimes they have bubbles, missing details, and they have a sprue, which you never see on resin models, because that's just not what resin needs. Usually what resin will have is they'll have the model be like upside down, or have like biggest parts pointed up, and then you'll have a big chunk, like a big gate, where the resin pours into, and then the resin fills up, and the weight of that resin helps to force it into the mold. And then you'll usually see like maybe a little tube connecting some feet or connecting some hairs, so that the resin just has a little bit of an easier time flowing to those areas. You never see a sprue, because that's just kind of wasting resin, but you would see sprue on a spin casting method, but it is very weird. But this model actually, it turned out really nice after lots of work putting it together. And I actually had a lot of fun putting it together. It was kind of fun problem solving my way through this mini, finding all of the little spots where there was some gates where they glued in little triangles of plastic onto probably their metal or resin masterpiece, or the resin, the master is the original object that they use to make all of the molds off of, and every time a mold breaks, they go back to the master to make a new mold. And when they transferred their metal models into resin, they must have gotten themselves a giant jar of these little plastic triangles to glue everywhere to try to coax the resin into all the little bits, but it's not necessary. Like, nobody does that. And you end up with bizarre situations where you're kind of looking at a model and being like, okay, that chunk of plastic, I need to carve that away because it's not meant to be there. They just put it there to hope that the resin will flow into the eyeball. It's really weird, and it leads to new people just can't really do Finecast models, because how do you know what you're looking at is sculpted detail versus the sprue gate? Because you kind of need to develop the eye. Like, if you ever look at someone's very first miniatures, they'll often leave the little stumps where the plastic was connected to the sprue, and it's not because they're dumb, it's just because they don't know yet. They haven't been trained on how to discern, like, well, what is a tiny square pocket, and what is a not good tiny, piece of plastic. You just need to develop that. And with Finecast, you almost need to like look at the website and be like, yeah, okay, so that little tooth is supposed to be there, but that little tooth next to it is not supposed to be there. It is super weird. But I mentioned that I had fun, and that's kind of because of the problem-solving elements. I had to use some hot water to like reheat things and move things. The Kroot's 2 little legs were attached at the butt, and so I had to like dip them in water and then wait like 30 seconds for the resin to soften up, and then I had to whip it out, and then wipe it off of my shirt, and then put the glue on, and then get it right, and then hold it for like 10 seconds while the glue dried, and it was kind of this kind of fun little operation. And then I gave him a big green stuff diaper because where all of the parts fit together, they weren't quite perfect. You had to do this with metal too. And so I had to give him a little green stuff necklace and a little green stuff diaper just to get everything perfect. And it was a little bit fun, but I'm not saying that it's good that Games Workshop models suck, because that is not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that I actually had a fun experience putting together this model. Although that is not to say that all Finecast models are fun to put together, because I have plenty of Necron models that are sitting in a drawer unbuilt because they're gonna be such a massive pain in the butt to build. This guy's nice because he's got a little bit of chonk, and so he's pretty forgiving. Those tiny little Necron Lord scrawny little arms where I have to re-sculpt basically everything, those are completely unacceptable. But yeah, Crew Talks, Gunner Guy, pretty cool. I feel like the Kroot really had a heyday back in the day. I mean, they had Forge World, a bunch of Forge World, they had a whole Forge World range to try to turn them into their own mini faction. And those models go for big money now. They are beloved. The only stuff available for the Kroot right now is the Kroot Boys, the Kroot Talks like this guy, and the Kroot Hounds, which at this point are ancient and are in desperate need of a refresh. But I feel like they could be doing more with the Kroot. It'd be really, really fun to see the old stuff come. No. The only thing available from the Games Workshop for the Kroot right now is the regular Kroot Boys, this guy, the Kroot Talks, and the Kroot Hounds, which are ancient at this point and in desperate need of a refresh. And I would actually like to see the Tau get a whole bunch of new aliens, because in theory, the Tau should be a little bit like the Covenant from Halo. Like, you should have the Tau be like the main guys, like 50%. But I feel like the other 50% should probably be all alien races that fulfill different roles. And I feel like the Kroot kind of fulfill their close combat role. The Vespids are kind of their jumpy around, like, you know, get onto a vantage point and snipe guys, and then that's kind of it. They don't have other aliens. And I think that that would be a really, really cool way to take the Tau forward, is to give them a whole bunch of aliens that fulfill weird roles. Maybe a psychic alien race would be really, really cool to give them a little bit of psychic powers. I know the Tau famously, they don't have like a soul, like they don't have any presence in the warp, which is part of the reason why they've been able to progress so rapidly compared to the other races who have been plagued by chaos their entire lives. But I think that there's plenty of room to do something really, really cool with the Kroot and the Tau. And I really had fun building this little Kroot rider. Really, really fun. In the lore of the Kroots can eat their enemies and gain some of their abilities, a lot like Kirby. And so if Kroots like were to eat a big hulking animal, but if they eat too much of it, they'll actually not be a sentient person anymore, and they'll just become like a gorilla, and they'll be ridden by the other members of their races. Just like if they eat an animal that's like too feral, they'll turn into the Kroot Hounds. And I guess if they eat a T-Rex, they'll turn into the Great Narlock. It's kind of fun lore. And so, really excited about the Kroot. They are neat. But yeah, in terms of Games Workshop resin, poopy. I mean, Anvil Industries, Hardcore Miniatures, Wargames Exclusive, Spellcrow, Cromlech, every company I've bought from has almost perfect, flawless resin. And then Games Workshop, the industry leader, they definitely make probably the best plastics, but in terms of resin, it's pretty shocking. But in other Games Workshop news, they are teasing me because they know I love Chaplains, and I'm excited to buy the new Chaplains because they released Grimaldus, and finally I want to buy it. I didn't love the look of the old Grimaldus. I thought it was pretty good, but I didn't like his little 5-year-old boy legs. I thought that they didn't look very good, but the new guy looks phenomenal. And they've brought back another Chaplain. They brought back the firstborn plastic Chaplain that was available in like the Heroes of the Empire or something. It was the old Space Marine Command Squad box with a new plastic HQ and then the plastic Chaplain. And he had really cool tassels hanging off him. And it was a great model that I don't have because I collect the Chaplains. I have 14 painted. I have a whole bunch more that are waiting in the wings to be painted. And Games Workshop came out with made-to-order Chaplains. A few of the resin Chaplains that they've made over the years. I have all of these except for maybe one of them, but I might actually have that. I should go back and check. But no matter what, I think I would just try to find it in metal on eBay instead of trying to buy the made-to-order resins. But it is pretty cool that they're being made available. I actually bought 2 of these guys literally like a few weeks before they dropped off the Games Workshop website. A lot of the old resin models left the Games Workshop web store, but I have them in my Chaplain collection, and one day I will own all Chaplains that they've ever made. Except for maybe not all of the Rogue Trader Chaplains, because there's like 10. It's ridiculous how many Chaplains they made back in Rogue Trader, and they're all real bad. So I think I'm happy with the 2 I have. Maybe if I find a really, really good eBay lot, I'll pick up the whole set. But I also don't like feel like painting that many Rogue Trader minis. They're kind of a pain in the butt. But it is cool to see Chaplains get a little love. And I'm super excited for Grimaldus. What a cool miniature. And for a game that everybody is talking about, literally, I hear so much buzz about this game, Aeronautica Imperialis. I've never heard anyone talk about it, but they just showed off that they're gonna come out with some Necron vehicles, which I think is really cool. And it reminded me of probably my most wrong take of all time. I've had some bad takes in the past that people have called me on. I think the biggest one was, I think that putting your Games Workshop pots into dropper bottles is a silly waste of time. I think it's really dumb. Just use up the paints. Well, you're just gonna spend a whole evening taking paint from one bad container and putting it into another bad container. It doesn't make any sense. But my other worst take is I don't think flyers work in the game of 40K. I don't think they should be here. And I have some. I have a bunch of the Necron Doomsides, and I have some of the Space Marine flyers. And they're not good. Like, they don't work well in the game. Big 40K is a big army game, but it's not that big an army game where you need air support. I feel like air support would work better as a strategy, like a stratagem that you can deploy, as opposed to like, my fighter jet is coming in for a strafing run. It just, I don't know, I feel like they don't work. I've used them in plenty of games, and you kind of end up with 2 situations, because they're flying, so they're hard to hit, which basically means never shoot at them because you'll miss, and it'll not be worth your time, and everything will suck. Or you get into weird situations like in 8th edition where flamethrowers were really, really good at taking out aircraft because they ignore to hit penalties. I think they did fix that pretty quick, but it was really, really funny when a heavy flamer just fired straight up in the air would take out like an armored aircraft. It made for a lot of fun interactions. But one thing that really bugs me sometimes is finicky movement rules. And flyers are the king of finicky movement rules. I mean, you're like, okay, you are allowed up to a 90-degree pivot, and then you must make a mandatory movement of like 36 inches. And then your base is the size of like a butter tray, so you can't put it down. So then you just finagle it in between your lovely terrain you have on the board. And then, oh, my, 4 las cannons on my Valkyrie just happen to be pointed perfectly at the side armor of your tank, so it dies instantly. And I'm like, did that really happen from your 90-degree pivot and then perfect 36? Like, did it really happen where every time you fly, you're just ending up perfectly aimed at my thing, and there's no point in me shooting at you because of such big penalties to hit you, but you can just blast the heck out of me? I don't know, I just don't like flyers. Maybe if Games Workshop could come up with something a little more clever than the giant dinner plate of a base they give flyers. Maybe like a little tripod thing so it could go, so that the legs could go in between other units. That would help out a little bit. Another army game kind of has a similar problem. Star Wars Legion, where the vehicles are so big, they become really, really unwieldy. Legion has this really, really tight movement mechanic where you take these individually made length rulers and you put them against the base of your leader figure, you move that leader figure, and then you move all of the other models in that area into coherency with the leader. It's really, really tight, it works really, really well. There's no room for error or wiggle, but with vehicles, it all kind of falls apart because you got this big old vehicle, and then you've got, a piece of terrain here, a piece of terrain here, and you try to move it into position, and then you're like, well, I want to move here. Do I do I accidentally gain a little bit of inch so that I can put it on the board and we can keep playing this game? Or do I not get some of my movement and I put it behind and then I get to put it down and we get to keep playing this game? Vehicles are always a little bit tricky, and aircraft are even trickier, and I just don't like them. I remember in 2016, they came out with a bunch of anti-aircraft tanks, specifically for the Space Marines and the Imperial Guard, to take out some of the new flying vehicles they were adding to the game, like the Orcs Wazdaka Flash Bombs Mega Jets, the Sun Shark for the Tau, and the Necron Croissants. But nobody ever took them because why would you buy a really expensive model kit that's only good at taking out air stuff? And then why would you bring it in the game so that you can blow up the enemy's flyer and then just not have a good tank for the rest of the game? I remember the Imperial Guard tank, it had rules where it got bonuses to hit flying stuff, but then it got negatives to hit normal ground stuff. So it didn't really fulfill a great dual purpose of shooting down aircraft and then shooting down other models on the board. I don't know, I feel like the air stuff kind of doesn't fit. And please let me know if you agree with me, or if you think I'm completely wrong and crazy and dumb, because yeah, those comments are fun to read too. But I don't like flyers in the game, but I love the idea of a flyer game. Aeronautica Imperialis rolls right off the tongue. Looks pretty fun, and I like the idea of all of these cool airplanes that are just the right size for you to play with on your desk and go like that. Seems like fun, as opposed to this big honking thing. But that game looks really, really fun. And it would be really cool if they could come up with a campaign system, the old Games Workshop game designers, of a way to kind of mix all of these games together so that maybe a game of Aeronautica Imperialis decides who goes first in deployments. And then maybe a game of Kill Team decides where the objectives are in a big game of 40K. And so you actually have to play this big campaign that takes place in the sky, on the ground, and then it all accumulates into one big 40K game where all the decisions are kind of made based on how well you performed in these other games. That would be neat. One thing I forgot to talk about last week was the new red Gobbo, and it is super, super cute. I know we got the Gobbo last year, and it was really, really cute. I love that they kind of gave him the silhouette of a Christmas tree as he's holding up the little Charlie Brown Christmas tree. And his nice gun, but super, super adorable. And then the new Gobbo is, they've kind of stepped it up just a little bit. He's riding a very adorable squig, and I almost hope that they step it up just a little bit every single year so that in like 5 years, he's like riding a battle wagon. That would be super, super cool. I mean, he's riding a squig. I wonder, like, what can they do every year? Maybe like the next year he'll be sitting in a pile of presents. And then the year after that, maybe he has a snowman friend with him or something. There's tons and tons of Christmassy themed stuff you can do. That would be absolutely adorable. But I like this thing that they're doing where it seems like they're gonna do a new Gobbo every single year. And it is absolutely adorable. I love the scenic base with the Christmas baubles just sitting in the snow. Super, super adorable. I love how ramshackle his decorations are. The underside of his little goblin boots seem to have nails in them, which is great. And of course, he has a stick of dynamite that is candy cane Christmas colors. Absolutely adorable. But yeah, super, super love the red Gobbo. I can't wait to see what they do with it next year and every year to come. It'll just be a fun Christmas tradition to see what Games Workshop does with the great red Gobbo. But that is what I was working on this week. I was also hard at work getting battle reports ready. It's really hard, but we're still working on it. And if you want to see those battle reports, or if you just like all the content that we produce, the best way to support us is by becoming a member of our Patreon. Over there, you're going to get access to some behind the scenes, voting on what models I paint live here on YouTube, a live hobby hangout every week to rank STLs, and if you could believe it, even more. But now it is time for the story portion of this show. I end every episode with a story, and the stories are about the connection between models and the memories that get attached to them. And this week I have probably the most boring story, so strap in. I'm gonna talk about these. Now these are flashlights, and yes, they are just flashlights, but I love them so. This flashlight is a Energizer something or other, and I think that this is the best flashlight ever made, and I bought this when I was in high school with a Target gift card that someone gave me for Christmas. And I instantly fell in love with this, and I decided that this was the world's best flashlight, and I always wanted to have this flashlight as part of my daily carry. If I need to be working, doing a little construction or building or engineering, I want to have this flashlight on me. Number one, it is just a great flashlight. Unlike a lot of flashlights of this type, it is actually machined, not just rolled extruded aluminum. It feeds off of one AA battery, which I prefer. Even though you don't get as much power as the 3 AAAs, it makes for a smaller profile. And I mean, who wants to be using up 3 AAAs when one AA gets the job done? And I actually use Energizer rechargeables, which you get just a little bit less power out of, but I actually don't notice it. Whatever LED they use in this is really, really good. But if anybody has seen Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium, and you remember that he bought enough shoes to last his whole life, I bought enough flashlights to last my whole life because I found out that they were discontinuing this flashlight, probably because it's very nice and it was probably expensive for them to make and they weren't making as much money. And so I went to the store and I bought 2 more, and I actually lost one, so thank God I bought more so that I have enough of these flashlights to last me the rest of my life. But it's just a really good flashlight. Most of the flashlights you find in like the flashlight aisle or the light bulb aisle, usually they are a piece of extruded aluminum that is run through a knurling machine. This has a little bit of knurling up here, which is fairly attractive, and it does help get the battery piece open, but it actually has these machined ridges, which are just lovely. I absolutely love the profile of this flashlight. I love how small it is. It's just the perfect thing. The old Energizer, whatever version flashlight this is. And they don't make it anymore because I know that this was a more expensive design, and that is why they switched to a less quality flashlight. But I had 3, I still have 2, and let's see if these 2 last me the rest of my natural born days, because it is a wonderful, wonderful flashlight. And it kind of just gives me happy feelings. Handling these, operating these, knowing that I have these. One day, perhaps the rubber button will wear out and I'll have to figure out a way to replace it with a new rubber button. I might buy the new Energizer flashlight just to replace the rubber button and just throw out the rest of the apparatus. But I connected with these things. I really like them. I think that they're neat. I have some like pocket knives and like some keychains and stuff that are also part of my daily carry, but they're not the same as these flashlights. I absolutely love them. They have become parts of my daily routine. They did have pocket clips that were actually really nice, but I broke them because I was not careful. But I just like them. I just like them a lot. It is an object that brings me joy. I really, really appreciate it. I love my original one is beat to hell. It is all scratched up. There's tons of damage and weathering to it, which just adds to the charm. I mean, think about like Han Solo's pistol. That thing is beat to hell. This is my Han Solo's pistol. It's not as lethal, and it only provides a small amount of light, but I absolutely love it. And I love, if I'm really bored or like I'm sitting at the DMV and my phone's died or something, I can always take this out of my pocket and just be like, I wonder how I dropped it and got that big old smush mark there. Or I wonder what took all the finish off of this one side. I just like it. I just like these, okay? This one actually has a giant melty spot right in the middle because I was using this to light my welding project while I was welding something, and a big hot piece of slag just jumped off of my torch and it landed right there and melted almost all the way through the plastic protective covering. So see, just all sorts of little things like that are why I absolutely love these flashlights. And if I ever lose both of these, I guess I die because of Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium, a movie that probably no one has ever heard of. But that is my story for this week, and it is going to bring this episode of Models and Memories to a close. Now it is time for the real star of the show, this week's EOB Complete Submissions. We put out a challenge to our community to send us before and after photos of their recently finished models to be immortalized in our videos. If you want to join in the fun, you can submit a before and after photo of your painted mini to our Discord server, which you can find in the description below, or you can post it to Instagram with the hashtag EOB Complete. Without further ado, let's look at and get inspired by what the folks have finished this week. An Orc Megaboss by Garden0090, some Norkers by Wombat74, an Old School Drazard by Save or Die, a Space Marine on Bike by Smelly Gazghoul Fart, a Blood Angel Sanguinary Priest by Ocho, The Lost, a Genestealer Cult Bus by Squid Cultist 002, a Legion of the Damned Lieutenant by Mitch, an Orc Commando by Black Lung Raider, a Chaos Lord by Grayscale, some Imperial Crusaders by Just Cruisin', a Primaris Ancient by Burr Lattice, an Orc Megaboss by 40k Guy, an Orc On Squig by Nurgle's Chosen Wog, a Space Wolf Terminator by Cubicle Lemming 9, a Crimson Stone from Infinity by The Happy Heretic, a Necron Silent King by Dingus Workshop, a Galactic Republic LAAT by Matt Weller, a Star Wars Legion Yoda by Miniature Obsessor, a Captain General Trohan Valoris by Gremlins Eat 2, an Age of Sigmar Techless by Unity, some Snowy Terrain by Erdgag, a Pious Vorn by Dark Lord Bodish, a Gaslands War Rig by Acanthos, an Iron Warriors Warpsmith by Zero, an Orc Warboss and Mega Armor by Khan Industries, a Veteran Guardsman Kill Team by Zirul, 2 Grey Knight Strike Squads by Chief Son as a Grey Knight, a Camo Tank by Bing Shilling 105C, and a Space Marine Captain in Gravis Armor by Holit27. Congratulations to everyone for a job well done. It's no small feat to get paint on minis, and you all should feel really proud. Nothing gets the hobby juices flowing like finishing a project, and we all thank you for sharing your work, motivating us and the hobby community to paint our plastic. Thanks for sharing.